Long way. So.
I think that more or less you're familiar with our movement. We came out in the last elections third. Now we are around 21% in the latest polls, but this keeps us in the third place. Local elections will be in autumn, but this month is going to be very delicate and hot because of two main issues. One is dialogue with Serbia in Brussels, and the other is privatization of key publicly owned enterprises like PTK, and later on privatization of Trepča as well. So we are doing our best to gather support in opposing these two processes, because the process of dialogue with Serbia, we believe, will turn Kosovo into another Bosnia, and the process of this brutal neoliberal privatization will turn Kosovo into a country like South Latin America 20 years ago. So we rely very much on the model of developmental state. We think that what Kosovo needs is economic development, which first of all means infrastructure production. Of course, services and finances are important branches of the economy, but manufacture is even more so. And recently we have adopted our governing alternative. This is not the most appropriate translation of our movement. We had our manifesto, which was turned into political program, and now recently in governing alternative, where we try to harmonize three main pillars: rule of law, developmental state, and social state. We think that what Kosovo needs is state building, which implies territorial integrity and sovereignty, and rule of law. Where rule of law, we do not see it like EULEX in terms of political stability and security, but rather in terms of justice for the people and rights of the people. And also this developmental state implies that we do not think that Kosovo should have a state which controls the economy, centralized planned economy, but neither state should be a spectator in it. So publicly owned enterprises and privately owned enterprises both can compete in the market. So liberalization of the market does not imply that we shall eliminate public ownership altogether, as neoliberal privatization is affirming and pushing our government to do so. We think the dialogue with Serbia is unjust, unprincipled, very damaging, because it's without conditions for Serbia and for internal issues of Kosovo. We cannot discuss about internal issues of Serbia, only those of Kosovo. We are discussing internal issues of Serbia only if we adopt the viewpoint of the Koštunica's constitution of the year 2006, when Kosovo, through a referendum, was put as an integral part of Serbia in its constitution as well. So we think that for normalization of relations between Kosovo and Serbia, it is Serbia who should be transformed and changed, not Kosovo. At present, in Brussels, it is Kosovo changing by creating a kind of autonomous entity inside Kosovo, which will not be limited to the north, because this association implies certain majority municipalities also south from Ivan. And the relation between the state of Kosovo and this association is more or less the same as the relation between Bosnia and and different provinces are back under the influence of Moscow. And Serbia wants to be like small Russia here, against independence of Montenegro and their political parties. With Macedonia, which is more or less becoming a Serbian protectorate now, north of Kosovo and other enclaves with this out of it. It is like big octopus, Russia with its satellite, small octopus, Serbia with its satellite. EU wants to separate small octopus from big octopus. The analyst is that because strong Serbia might not mean much to Europeans, but it means a lot to us neighbors of Serbia, and we are going to pay the price, the cost of strengthening of Serbia in the Balkans. So one of the key reasons why EU wants this dialogue is to bring Serbia in the smooth European track. And I agree with this, but it is not us who should pay the price. Because Serbia is basically telling Brussels, okay, I might reorient myself from Moscow toward you, but help me get stronger in the Balkans. This is very problematic. The second reason why EU is pushing so hard for this dialogue is that Baroness Ashton, as High Representative of EU and in charge for security and foreign policy of EU, wants to prove herself in European yard in order to be able to later on project itself in other crises of the world, because we know that in Syria, Israel-Palestine conflict, Libya, Mali, you had France, you had different EU countries on their own, but not EU as such. So in this, let's say, 21st century multipolar world, EU wants to have its place on the global stage. I fully understand this as well. But I think they are rushing too much in trying to fix these conflicts without relying much on what is just and what is right, but rather how to just make deals between different prime ministers, where you have normalization of relations between Thoughts and Dutchies, but not between Albanians and Serbs, between Kosovo and Serbia. So I think that politically Kosovo does not have much debt, economically and financially speaking, but politically we are entering into some kind of debt game, and for everything we are going to pay later on. Because Thoughts and Dutchies could make these agreements, but first of all, they're not going to be implementable. And second is that we are living in debt in the sense that, of course, you can take a loan in the bank and buy 2 yachts and 2 new cars and get a new apartment, but you will have to pay that later on. So I think that all what they are doing without any principles, without any conditions for Serbia, we are going to pay later on, and that is not going to be good. What enables this dialogue? I think it is enabled by corruption of our Prime Minister, who is one of the richest people in the country, with his brothers together. And on the dialogue, on the table there is dialogue in Brussels, but under the table there are dossiers of EULEX. EULEX is not using files of organized crime and corruption in Kosovo in order to bring justice, but rather to discipline our political elite. So in a way, EU, while mediating between Kosovo and Serbia, is in a kind of a conflict of interest, because they are ruling over Kosovo through EULEX, which has executive powers over our institutions, which are not limited neither in time nor in scope, according to the 3H article of the Joint Action Plan of 4th of February 2008, which is the foundation of EULEX in Kosovo. And at the same time mediating between Pristina and Belgrade. So there is this asymmetry where EU rules over Kosovo but mediates between Kosovo and Serbia. In addition to the previous asymmetry that I mentioned, that we cannot discuss in this dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia about things of Serbia. Generally, there are more Albanians in Serbia than Serbs in Kosovo, but you cannot talk about Velja Preševa at all in Brussels in this dialogue. You have Hungarians in Vojvodina, you have Bosniaks in Sandra, you have Albanians in Velja Preševa, but you're not supposed to talk about these things, only about Serbs in Kosovo. And I'm very worried because this is not creating good relations between Albanians and Serbs in Kosovo, in the sense that the rights of the Serbs, which are becoming more and more privileges, not the rights, besides being discrimination for others, and here I do not mean only Albanians, but also other minorities, they at the same time are coming about as a concession to Belgrade. It is not that some Serbs in Gračanica made protests because they demanded more rights, it is simply because Dačić wanted more rights for Serbs in Kosovo. This is very, very wrong approach, I must say. I think history is important, and how certain rights are coming about or springing is very important. And if it would be as a result of, let's say, Serbs in Kosovo organizing demonstrations against our government because they demand more rights, that would be completely another issue. But here, Serbs are gaining more and more privileges because Dačić wants them to have them in order to mask its own interests. I don't think that Belgrade cares much about rights of the Serbs, but rather territory that is going to control inside Kosovo, and even more so, control that it will have in order to be able to render our country dysfunctional. If Serbia gets into EU before Kosovo and Albania, then Greece is doing nothing to Macedonia what they will do to us. So I think that unequal treatments produce further inequalities among the countries of the Western Balkans. We had one very great thinker among Albanians here, Kurtit. He was 3 times in prison. He did his master in Harvard. He is a missing person today. He wrote a very nice essays. In one of them he says, for example, that at the end of the day, Serbia can imagine independence of Kosovo and freedom of Albania, but cannot imagine equality with us. Something that Serbia cannot imagine is equality with us. Serbia could not imagine in the 80s Kosovo and Serbia both to be republics. Today, Serbia cannot imagine that Kosovo and Serbia both to be independent countries. But there is this interesting declaration that we hear from time to time, that Serbia is going to recognize us the day that it's going to join EU. When Serbia will be at the gates of EU, then it will recognize us, because again, we're not going to be equal. Serbia will be a member of EU, we will remain outside of EU. So equality is something that they cannot really imagine. Also reciprocity, within the spirit of equality. Serbia is ready to discuss about Serbs in Kosovo, Serbian Orthodox Church, and so on, but not about Albanians in Valley of Preševa. So if they want their demands to be turned into principle, they must be able to imagine applying those same demands on themselves. But this is not the case. For less than a year, Vučić, Nikolić, Dačić, who come from the same family of war criminals like Milošević, Karadzic, Mladić, and Šešelj, they got rehabilitated as if nothing happened in the past. No apology, no remorse, they didn't pay a single euro for all the war damages, and all the doors of Western capitals are open to them. And this is thanks to our Prime Minister, who, in order not to go to prison in Kosovo, because of corruption and organized crime and all these things, he is ready to be very submissive and obedient toward Baroness Ashton, and in a way comply with all the requirements when it comes to so-called normalization of relations between Kosovo and Serbia. I think that neither Kosovo nor Serbia are normal countries. We're both abnormal countries. If you normalize relations between two abnormal countries, this adds to abnormality. So what we need is normal Serbia, normal Kosovo, and as a consequence, we have normal relations. But from the viewpoint of Brussels, normal Kosovo, normal Serbia are not priorities. Priority is normal relations. And I will try to end with the latest remark. Now, the last remark, sorry, that from what I read and what I've been following politics in these years, I think that the two key ideologies today in the EU enlargement process are Carl Bildt and Robert Cooper. So, of course, I don't agree with them. Robert Cooper wrote these two books, Postmodern State and Breaking the Nations. Carl Bildt had this essay in Princeton 2004, where he speaks against self-determination, against Versailles Conference 1919. They're all in favor of Vienna Congress 1815, Belle Epoque, and so on. that peace and stability and security can be maintained through empires. Nation states are always, troublemaking. So that's why when EU says state building in Kosovo, they don't mean building a state, but building a member state. 2 in 1. And 3 or 4 years ago, Peter Faith said Kosovo will be sovereign one day, the day that it will join EU. So we are going to be sovereign only retroactively. Sovereignty as a memory. So we are going to be sovereign only in our act of delegation of sovereignty. So only in this is the only sovereignty we get in the act of delegation of sovereignty. So we are going to join EU, and that's how we're going to say that we have been sovereign, but we're never going to be sovereign. This is the viewpoint of Mr. Gentilini and of Baroness Ashton office, where where Robert Cooper was the key political advisor. Carl Bildt will come to Kosovo now, beginning of July, and he wants to be the next after Baroness Ashton. This is a public secret thing, it's diplomatic circle. So I find very problematic this, because it's imperialist viewpoint, and they do not see states in themselves. They see relations between states, because they talk of flexible, multi-layered sovereignty. So from their viewpoint, what is important are relations between the units, not the units themselves. Or let me put it another way, the unit of this viewpoint are relations between the units. So I find it wrong, because it's precisely this viewpoint that cares about normalization of relations between Kosovo and Serbia, and not normalization of Kosovo and Serbia as two separate states, which I advocate for. And for this, we need that Kosovo has the rule of law, get rid of corruption, have some economic development. Serbia face its past and should give up on Kosovo. This is how we are going to have normal states and therefore normal relations as well. So I better stop here before you stop me, and perhaps it's best if we have a discussion.
Do you feel some hostility in your political activity by great European powers or US? Do you feel they're trying to hold you down?
Yeah, of course. I think that during the period of Serbia, we were like in prison, all equal, no freedom. With international protectorate, we got freedom from Serbia, not from international community, and we lost equality. So today, for example, you have huge inequality between here in Kosovo, and the richest people are in politics. Politicians become the richest people, and they are in good relation with international community. Throughout these 14 years, we had two kings. One was formal king, head of UNMIC, or head of EU mission, or head of ICO. This is the official king. And the unofficial king was always the American ambassador in this Dragodan Arborea hill, which we call Olymp. And sometimes it was Zeus, sometimes it was goddess Hera, but it was always there. And they decided about key issues. Sorja Petersen, who used to be head of UNMIC for a couple of years in Kosovo, 2005, 2007, he said that in one TV show 1 year ago, whenever we wanted to arrest some corrupt politician because of war crimes and who was very high ranking, he said to Jeta Jara, Life in Kosovo, the TV show, and Bern and so on, he said, you cannot imagine who used to call us one night before. Well, who? Pope? Obama? Who was it? God himself? Petersen said this 1 year ago to Gezer. He was head of UNMIC. So I said to Mr. Zvoga, who is the EU Special Representative, don't support us, just speak truth, what you know about our politicians. That's fine. But they don't say it. All internationals who are here, they know so much about the corruption here, but they don't speak. Because they have intelligence, data, they have EULEX here, but no, truth is suppressed. And then you have scandals like Pronto scandal, where our Prime Minister talks with some MP, head of his parliamentarian group, Andrea, is called Pronto scandal, because this was leaked, probably by EULEX, maybe not. But this is only one part of one CD among 31 CDs from one single political process, Fatmi-Lima process. And they talk like this. Pronto, the other says, come stai? You know, they talk in Italian to each other. They don't speak Italian, either one of them. Because I checked in their CV in Parliament, do they speak Italian? No, they don't speak Italian. But they talk to each other, pronto, come stai? There is this, you know, Marlon Brando wannabe language. You know, like in Golfmore. It was public, you know, it was public. And they don't act, they don't do, no, we need pace for stability, for dialogue, and so on. So it's a double pressure. First is direct pressure of the international community, which doesn't have a vision for development of the country. And second is this oppression that we feel from our own politicians who are in good relations with international community. This is both formal and informal. They compare us with Palestine, Afghanistan, Iraq. They say, we're not that bad, you know. Comparing with Palestine, we're not that bad. Well, why don't you compare me with Slovenia? It's better to compare me with Slovenia and get the mark -10 than to compare me with Palestine and get the mark +2. If you want a normal country, you should have a normal reference toward which you compare yourself. They keep comparing us with other crises in the world. And this is, you know, crisis management, they call it. And now, 2 weeks ago, there was some students from University of Constance, Germany, again, 5 years after, and I see again in their master program, conflict management. Why not conflict resolution? Why conflict management? But this comes from Javier Solana, 2006 concept of crisis management. And EULEX defines itself as crisis management operation. Don't misunderstand me. There are some very good people in EULEX. Some very good people among the international community. But their job description, the paradigm, their viewpoint, their approach are wrong. There are some idealist people among the international community who really tried hard. You know, when you jump on a train for Berlin, you cannot go to Athens, you know. You jumped in the wrong train. So this is how the situation is here. Even the best people, they are in the wrong train. Because, yeah, I've met many internationals here who would really like to help our country. But we need from Sorbonne, we need some professors to teach at our university critical thinking. Why not? Instead of getting professors from Sorbonne, we get Yves de Kermabo, a retired general, who becomes head of EULEX. And we check in Google, he was in, I think, Ghana in the 60s, overthrowing some regimes that do some not that democratic missions. So what we need is experts for development, for agriculture, professors, doctors from EU, not policemen, judges, and prosecutors with immunity from criminal prosecution. People who are themselves above the law and they speak about the law. So I don't mean, when I say this about international communism and so, I don't mean about every single international official, not at all. Actually, vast majority of them could be good people. But they are not going to help us anymore. Just to keep the situation stable. Because physically, they are post-conflict. Politically, they are pre-conflict. They are here prior to a conflict that should not occur. Kosovo was a war zone. There shouldn't be another war in Kosovo. This is the priority of the national community.
I was wondering what impact could have the elections on Sunday in Albania on Kosovo. What is your analysis of the current situation there? Or do you consider the fate of you two countries now totally separated?
No, I think it's not separated, and I really would like to see democratic elections there. And I would really see some kind of clear victory as well. Not some victory which is for 20 votes, you know, because that could bring their problems. So I wish these are free democratic elections and clear victory. So this is the most important thing, because if Albania gets into some kind of turmoil, that will have effects here, no? Because, you know, people are very linked across the border. You know? They have families all over, and also we are connected with Albania, and I think that also European capitals, they see us much more linked than they want to admit. So if they focus too much in Albania, Kosovo will be out of radar for some time. Like it was in the year 1997, where we had this riots, and during spring of the year 1997, around 2,000 people were killed in Albania. And I hope that we're going to have free democratic elections there. Because what we need is sovereignty for Kosovo. Like, we need like a functioning state of Kosovo, but if state of Albania starts not to function properly, we have problems there. Kosovo will not be any more a priority.
What should the relations be between Albania and Kosovo? I mean, do you want more cooperation in an economic way, or should they?
Well, I think that it would be best we to join each other, Kosovo and Albania, to be one state. For this, we need referendum in Kosovo to allow, but Article 1.3 of our constitution does not allow referendum. And they took this from Austria, you know, because Article 4 there prevents Anschluss to Germany. But we didn't have Hitler, you know, Serbia had Milosevic. Why put this Article 1.3 in our constitution? So we want through democratic, peaceful means to be able to join Albania through the right of our independent country to join another country. So actually this Article 1.3 does not allow us either to join EU. So we will have to change our constitution even to join EU. Let's see in the referendum what people say. I think vast majority will vote yes.
Yeah, in Kosovo or also in Albania?
Yeah, also in Albania. According to this Gallup International survey, these polls, it's in Albania is 63%, in Kosovo is 81%, something like that. Because we could be a bigger market. Albania has coast, mountains, water. We have coal and fields, complementary that. But also, you know, this border is a bit traumatic for us because it was not being put by us and not in peaceful manner. So in London Conference 1913, Sir Edward Grey, foreign minister at that time, said that, of Britain, he said that we did a great injustice to Albania and Albanian people to preserve European peace. And 1 year after, we have the First World War. So, in a way, it seems as if we got independence on the condition that we cannot be independent from it. You know? Like, we're stuck in independence. You know, full independence is the one when you can get rid of it. But when you get independence that you cannot get rid of it, it's not real independence. So I think also in this aspect, we need, because independence is when you get separated from another country. But independence is also when you can enter another federation. Independence should imply also the right and ability to join other entities.
And would you leave it with there, or is this an issue also with Montenegro, Macedonia, maybe Greece? I mean, when you think of the Alliance, Alianza Kuchevi, they
well,
get
I
bigger
think that
ambitions.
I think that the Balkans in this decade of 21st century it's very complex, because we're not going to join EU, and meanwhile there are some strange dynamics. For example, Gruevski, in contrast to Georgievski in Macedonia, becoming more and more pro-Serb. Dacic visited him in Skopje and told him that you have no danger from the north. If you have other risks, other dangerous intrusions, I'm here to help you. And the same day, Popovsky met Lavrov in Russia. And Bulgaria does not recognize Macedonian language. Greece does not recognize name. Serbia does not recognize church. Albanians recognize all of this, but we're not liked there very much by Gruevski. So I don't know where this will go. So I think it's up to political parties there in society and people what will happen. But it is not going to be stable, because there is huge discrimination of Albania. For example, they are underrepresented in all state and publicly owned enterprises, state institutions, publicly owned enterprises. I don't know what will happen. It's up to people there, and especially the Gruevski government. I think Gruevski is in a totally wrong path with this Disneyland in Skopje and this. Alexander the Great, removing from the shields and the swords, removing all elements of other Illyrian, Hellenic, all this removing, trying to falsify, fabricate tradition, and so on. It's problematic. I think Macedonia is just as unstable and artificial as Bosnia.
Would you describe yourself as a realist or as an idealist in terms of political thinking?
Well, I'm an idealist, but I'm afraid I'm not enough. I think that even strong countries and nations cannot move forward without idealism, let alone us. But I want to be idealist. I'm afraid I'm not that successful.
You said that the dialogue with Serbia, getting back to the Brussels Agreement, the dialogue with Serbia was damaging.
Yeah.
So from your point of view, there is no positive outcome for Kosovo at all?
No. We're going to have a state within a state. That state is not going to be really a state, but neither Kosovo. For example, this association of Serb majority municipalities can enlarge itself only with its own will. If a certain Albanian municipality wants to join this association, they can say, no, we don't want you. And there's nothing to do about it. On the other hand, the dismantling of this association is impossible by anyone else but association itself. So our President Yahyaga can tonight disband our parliament and call for early elections. Prime Minister Thaçi from Brussels can dismantle his government through his resignation. But neither Prime Minister Thaçi nor President Yahyaga can dismantle this association. So government and Assembly of Kosovo are weaker toward our President and our Prime Minister than this Serb majority municipalities created association. I think that north of Mitrovica will become our Banja Luka if it continues down this path, and Gračanica will be like Pala, the suburb of Sarajevo. This is what Dacic wants, and this is what Thaçi doesn't care. If you don't move him out from his office, don't put him in prison, doesn't care. It's as simple as that. You know that the latest news, I don't know if you've heard it, like 2 hours ago, Lipinski, our diplomat in Belgrade, he resigned. And he resigned because he said that Thaçi called him and criticized that he said that a full normalization of relations between Kosovo and Serbia will come when Serbia recognize Kosovo. And now, just before I came down, one media here, Express, which used to be a newspaper, which is linked with the government, and all the people from that went to PDK, they said that, they were about to dismiss Rizzi because of some tax evasion or something like that, but you know, he's now doing this.
So it's a bit unclear, this whole story, that he resigned because that Thaci had said...
He called him on the phone,
yeah,
and criticized him, said, why did you say that normalization of relations takes place only when Serbia recognizes us?
Lulzim Petsi had said that.
Sorry?
Lulzim Petsi had said normalization would only
Yes.
come.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lulzim Petsi said
I
that.
don't know why Thaci would disagree with that.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But it's all a bit odd, the whole thing.
Yeah,
It's not really clear what...
Thaci is keeping the position of Kosovo lower than Petsi. This is what it is from the letter of Petsi, you can understand it. Because he wrote a letter to media, which was published to the media, and he wrote it, I think, to the president. Because he gave resignation which cannot be revoked. And he resigned because he said that I'm keeping a state position, while Thaci is keeping it lower, which is against what I believe and what is my job description. Very strange. Who can resign? You know the Dino Hassani famous case. Head of privatization agency in Kosovo, a year ago, allegedly killed himself with 11 stabs. He stabbed himself 11 times. This was a suicide. And he was buried immediately, one day after. When you die in a car accident, they leave you 48 hours, you know. They don't organize a funeral for you immediately the next day. And immediately next day, you know. FBI came, did an investigation, said yes, it was a suicide. And you have a nail, last nail of this coffin.
So what do you think was the truth?
No, I think he was killed.
But for what, who, by what for?
You know, head of privatization agency. That's the biggest crime in the after war Kosovo in economic terms. Billions of euros there. And he had the entire archive. Two people are key to understand the economy of Kosovo after the war. Dino Hassani and Ahmed Shara. Ahmed Shara was finance minister. And also in KTA, Kosovo Trust Agency, which conducted the entire privatization process. Ahmed Shara was sent ambassador to Japan, you know, as far as possible. The other allegedly committed suicide.
Or you have evidence of this?
Well, you could see from these CDs that were leaked out.
Right.
A lot of nepotism, a lot of corruption, and there is no investigation against them. I said to Mr. Zboga, why EULEX ex officio does not investigate Bekterenka contract? Because we're building this huge highway, 1 billion euros, 3 times more expensive than market price. We're paying 10 million euros for 1 kilometer of 4 lanes highway. And the contract was never published. We found it as a movement. Somebody left it in my door still. And I published it. And then Minister Fehmi Muyota came out and said it's not real because it doesn't have the signature. And it is true, it didn't have the signature. Next day, another envelope with signature, the same one. And he never spoke again. And I said, okay, send me to prison. Because this is slander, this is, you know, false proof. Why don't police does not investigate me? Because I published the contract. They said, no, it's not this contract. Okay, start investigation against Albin and send him to prison. Because I did a great harm, right? No, that is the contract. Why EULEX does not act ex officio? Instead of paying 300 million euros, we're paying close to 1 billion.
What did he answer when you asked him? Yeah, he representative. You representative.
He didn't speak. Yeah, if you meet him, please ask him. Why don't you start ex officio investigation about this highway where the contract was not published and the Vendossi published? It's 110 pages. You can download it on the internet, or I can send it to you if you don't like to incriminate yourself through downloading, because we live in very strange times now.
Is it on your
When it
website?
comes to-
Is it on the Vendossi website?
Yes. So, because to receive it's not, I think, it's not problematic. But if you send to somebody or if you download it, you could be incriminated. But I don't mind about it.
So what does the contract say? What's corrupt in the contract?
The prices for units.
The price.
Prices, you know, it's insane. And Bechtel is allowed to take, I don't know, like sand that is needed for highway anywhere in public property, wherever they want, whenever they want. Who will sign this contract? Kosovo I see as my citizenship, not as my nationality, I must say. So I think Kosovo is citizen of Kosovo, but it is rather some kind of legal identity than national identity. And,
so basically everyone could become.
yes, I think everyone could become Kosovo. But I don't think that Albanians will replace their national identity with Kosovo identity, nor Serbs. I don't think this is realistic to expect. But I don't mind nations, no. I don't have problems with nations. I think nations are socio-historical formation of modernity. States and nation will continue in 21st century. Maybe after 2 centuries, let's say, maybe earlier, there will be no states, no nations in the world. I must say that at large extent I'm looking forward to that. But let's start from Chinese nation, American nation, from these big nations. Let's not start from Albanian nation, neither from Serbian nation. So let's start from these big nations giving up from their states and nationalism, and later on we will be on the queue there waiting to get rid of it. And I think nation is important, but we shall be careful in the sense that there is one type of progressive nationalism which is organized around liberation and equality. But there is a reactionary type of nationalism, a negative type, when it is organized around glorifying differences and greed. So, some of nationalism is in me, I try to preserve it within Algerian kind rather than French kind, if I may put it so. Like more like liberation, anti-colonial, I like more this kind of nationalism. So rather, let's say, Frantz Fanon than Charles de Gaulle.
Do you have any political figures within Europe which you would say who are close to this, or close to your attitude?
No, we just want to, we want Kosovo, Albania, all the Balkans, I think it's good to join EU. And I want to see strong EU. But before we join EU, I think that it would be good EU to change a bit as well. I think EU should be social Europe. Not, I don't like this, this focus on austerity measures. It's leading us nowhere. So of course, in this respect, I'm closer, let's say, much closer to Keynes than Hayek. So I think we need different kind of Europe, and there is nice debate going on now in this website, socialeurope.com, between Etienne Balibar, the French philosopher, and Jürgen Habermas. So between these two, I'm closer to Balibar. So here I'm with the French, because he says that we need a new movement for new Europe, new movement from below. We should look at the day when it's more important to become MEP than MP, when it's more important to become European Commissioner than Minister in your country. But this cannot be done in Brussels. This should be done with young people, with universities, with workers from below. I don't know exactly how. People are still discussing about this. But I would like to be included into this as well. So I think maybe in 15, 20 years we could witness this, I hope so. Because I think Europe has a lot to give. We in the movement, intellectually, also some like people who studied philosophy in our movement, not me, but we're all like children of Europe. I think Europe has a lot to give. And it's so sad, it's such a shame if this doesn't happen. Maybe sometimes Europe does not like its own children, but what to do? So we were taught by them. And when it comes to identification, this is a bit important, I think. There are two streams, let's say a bit theoretical. One stream says, first of all, I am a human being, then I become Albanian, Serbian, Croatian, British, German law. The other stream says, first of all, and the other says the opposite. So the first stream of thinking is like a kind of, let me call them fundamentalists of human rights. Like, first of all, human being, and then after, a separate nationality. But this is self-subversive concept in the sense that being Albanian is of a higher order of being than being human being. And I don't like this. Because I think that, first of all, I was Albanian. Both my parents were Albanian, there was no chance for me to become something else, you know. All these lullabies in Albanian language, getting into language. But, you know, when I became 10 or 12 years old, I thought being Albanian is not enough. So I'm trying to become a human being out of insufficiency of being Albanian. So I think that every person in Europe, above all, should not be Albanian or Italian or German. But prior to all, you are that. Let's not pretend. So prior to all, I'm Albanian because I was born like Albanian. I was already when I was born, I was Albanian. But later on, for me, this is not enough. So when I started to read literature, I thought, okay, let's learn English. I learned Serbo-Croatian. Through this, I got the best translation of Russian literature and Eastern European, and I got all these influences. So nationality, we should not deny nationality, but we should rather say how it is insufficient. So this is what I like most. And I think it's more progressive in a way. And I like cosmopolitanism, but which comes from below. Etienne Balibar said when I was in Birkbeck, I will go this year as well. He said, whenever you hear the word cosmopolitanism from above, be careful because one empire is expanding. You know, cosmopolitanism from above. One empire is expanding and doesn't like what you are on your own. And you know, cosmopolitanism, it comes as, I like cosmopolitanism, but it should not come from above. It should come from people. And here, where society is best forced, are universities and factories, like worker solidarity. Mm-hmm. And here we rely on this Professor Hyun Chang from South Korea, who teaches at Cambridge. He has this model of developmental state. And he's the one that we owe a lot for writing our program. So just, for example, he says that when he was in Finland in one conference there, he said, I went to Helsinki, it was gloomy, it was cold, it was winter, nobody talked to me, but then it didn't matter because they didn't talk among themselves, you know, like in this Aki Kaurismäki's films, you know, the best situation in Helsinki. But then he said, I was thinking, how on earth Finnish people got Nokia? They don't talk to each other, you know? Why do they get Nokia? I would understand if Italians would have Nokia, you know, communicative people. Or we in South Korea, when landline phones were invented, we thought, if I could only take it with me, you know. But why Finnish people got Nokia? And he did a bit of research and came to a very interesting conclusion. Finland got Nokia because they decided to have Nokia. In economy, you need decisions. Free market is not enough. You know. Likewise, in economy, not just in politics, you must have decisions. For years and years, Nokia was subsidized by the state. So the state should help orienting economy. You must have economic vision, not only install economic principles like privatization. I don't think privatization is an economic idea. Privatization is lack of ideas. When you don't know what to do with your wealth and your capacities for development, you privatize. So I think there is a lot to discuss about economy, and I'm so glad that after financial crisis, we are moving slightly from culture to economy. Culture is important, but economy is even more so. So let's try more to think about social inequalities rather than cultural differences. A kind of slight shift from anthropology to sociology. So this is what I'm looking forward, and we as a movement, we try to bring in the debate here in Kosovo, but it's not easy. It's not easy because they label us in all possible ways. Just nobody to hear our arguments.
Thank you so much for all of your time, generous in the evening. We'll have some more meetings tonight, and then tomorrow we are moving to Tirana.
Oh, very good.
To see what is happening there, which is no less interesting than what is happening here. And thereafter we are going to Sarajevo and Banja Luka, so a tour de force.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.